Weeks of preparation had led to this moment, and I was certain I was going to knock it out of the park. The presentation I had meticulously crafted was going to wow the executives, secure that promotion I'd been eyeing, and cement my place as a rising star in the company. Little did I know that in just a few short hours, all of those dreams would come crashing down around me, all because of one small oversight. The room was intimidating, to say the least. Our company's top brass sat around the large mahogany table, their expressions a mix of anticipation and skepticism. I recognized our Paula, at the head of the table, her piercing gaze following me as I made my way to the front of the room. The CFO, marketing director, and several other high-ranking executives I'd only ever seen from afar were all there, waiting to hear what I had to say. I set my laptop down on the podium, feeling a small flutter of nerves in my stomach. It was normal, I told myself. Even the most seasoned presenters get a little stage fright. I took a deep breath, smiled at the room, and reached down to plug in my laptop. That's when I felt it. The sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach as my hand grasped at empty air where my laptop charger should have been. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears as the reality of the situation dawned on me. I had forgotten my laptop charger. Trying to maintain my composure, I discreetly glanced at the battery indicator in the corner of my screen. 5%. My blood ran cold. How could this be happening? I always kept my laptop charged. But then I remembered I had been working late the night before, fine-tuning my presentation, and must have forgotten to plug it in when I finally called it a night. As I looked up at the expectant faces of the executives, I realized I had a choice to make. I could admit my mistake and ask to reschedule, potentially losing this opportunity altogether, or I could forge ahead and pray that my laptop would hold out long enough for me to get through the key points of my presentation. In a split-second decision that I would come to regret, I chose the latter. I launched into my introduction, my words coming out a bit faster than I had rehearsed. My eyes kept darting to the battery indicator, watching with growing dread as it ticked down. 4%. 3%. Each slide transition felt like an eternity as I raced through my carefully prepared talking points. The executives seemed engaged, nodding along as I presented our latest market research and growth projections. But I couldn't fully appreciate their reactions. My mind was consumed by the ticking time bomb that was my laptop battery. As I reached the midpoint of my presentation, the moment I had been dreading arrived. Just as I was about to reveal our innovative new strategy, the one I was sure would impress even the most skeptical executive, my screen went black. The projector flickered and died, plunging the room into an awkward silence. I stood there, frozen, as the reality of the situation washed over me. This was it. My "yup, I'm effed" moment had arrived in all its glory. The silence in the room was deafening. I could feel the weight of every eye upon me, waiting to see how I would handle this catastrophe. Paula, our CEO, raised an eyebrow, her expression a mix of disappointment and curiosity. The CFO checked his watch, clearly annoyed at the interruption. In that moment, I knew I had to do something, anything, to salvage the situation. I cleared my throat and began to speak, trying desperately to recall the data and insights I had spent weeks memorizing. But without my visual aids, without the comfort of my carefully designed slides, my words felt hollow and unconvincing. I stumbled through the rest of the presentation, acutely aware of how unprofessional and unprepared I must have seemed. The confident, polished image I had hoped to project had evaporated, replaced by a fumbling, nervous wreck of a presenter. As I concluded, the room remained silent. Paula thanked me for my time, her tone polite but cold. The other executives began to gather their things, their body language clearly indicating that the meeting was over. No one asked any questions. There were no nods of approval, no signs that I had made any positive impression at all. As I packed up my now useless laptop, I caught Paula's eye. The look she gave me said everything I needed to know. My chances at that promotion, the one I had been working towards for months, had just vanished. In that moment, I felt a potent mix of embarrassment, disappointment, and dread wash over me. The walk back to my desk felt like the longest of my life. Colleagues who had wished me luck earlier now averted their eyes, no doubt having heard about my disastrous presentation through the office grapevine. I slumped into my chair, the full weight of what had just happened finally hitting me. As I sat there, replaying the catastrophe in my mind, I couldn't help but think of all the things I could have done differently. Why hadn't I checked my laptop before leaving home? Why didn't I have a backup plan? Why didn't I just admit my mistake at the beginning and ask to reschedule? The rest of the day passed in a blur. I went through the motions of my usual tasks, but my mind was elsewhere, consumed by thoughts of what this failure would mean for my career. Would I be passed over for future opportunities? Would my colleagues lose respect for me? Would I always be remembered as the person who couldn't even manage to keep their laptop charged for an important presentation? As I packed up to leave that evening, long after most of my colleagues had gone home, I made a vow to myself. This would never happen again. I would learn from this mistake, painful as it was, and use it to become better, more prepared, more professional. The next few weeks were challenging. I could feel the shift in how people treated me at work. The whispers, the sidelong glances, the way conversations would stop when I entered a room. It was clear that my reputation had taken a significant hit. But instead of letting it defeat me, I decided to use this experience as motivation. I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor. I started arriving early and staying late, double and triple checking every report, every presentation, every email. I became known as the most prepared person in every meeting, always ready with backup plans and contingencies. Slowly but surely, I began to rebuild my reputation. Colleagues started to take notice of my improved performance. My direct supervisor commented on my increased attention to detail and dedication. It wasn't easy, and there were many days when the memory of that failed presentation threatened to overwhelm me, but I persevered. 6 months after the incident, an opportunity arose for another big presentation. When Paula announced that she wanted an update on our department's progress, my supervisor turned to me. Despite my past failure, he believed I was the best person for the job. As I stood before the executives once again, I felt a familiar flutter of nerves. But this time I was prepared. I had my fully charged laptop, a backup on a USB drive, printed handouts of my slides, and even a portable charger, just in case. I had rehearsed my presentation backwards and forwards, ensuring I could deliver it even if all my technology failed. The presentation went off without a hitch. The executives were engaged, asking thoughtful questions and nodding in approval at our progress. When I finished, Paula herself commended me on my thorough preparation and clear delivery. The sense of redemption was overwhelming. As I walked out of that conference room, head held high, I couldn't help but reflect on how much I had grown since that disastrous day. The embarrassment and dread I had felt then had been transformed into determination and resilience. I had taken a moment of failure and turned it into an opportunity for growth. That original "yup, I'm effed" moment, as painful as it was, had taught me invaluable lessons. It showed me the importance of preparation, the need for backup plans, and the value of owning up to mistakes quickly rather than trying to push through and potentially making things worse. It taught me that one failure doesn't define you unless you let it, and that how you respond to setbacks is often more important than the setbacks themselves. Now, years later, I often share this story with new employees and interns. It serves as both a cautionary tale and an inspiration. Yes, it demonstrates the importance of being prepared and checking your equipment before important meetings. But more than that, it shows that even the most embarrassing failures can be overcome with perseverance, hard work, and a willingness to learn from your mistakes. That day, when my laptop died in front of the entire executive team, felt like the end of the world. In reality, it was just the beginning of a new chapter in my career, one defined by meticulous preparation, resilience in the face of setbacks, and a deep appreciation for the power of portable chargers. So now, whenever I'm about to enter an important meeting or give a crucial presentation, I think back to that day. I double-check my equipment, review my backup plans, and take a deep breath. And I smile, knowing that no matter what happens, I'm prepared to handle it. Because sometimes, it's the moments when we think we're truly effed that end up teaching us the most valuable lessons of all.